All right. Good morning, sunshines. Happy Boxing Day. Fun fact, has nothing to do with the sport. So there's no boxing happening, but I'll tell you all about Boxing Day in just a minute. But first of all, more importantly, I'm going to introduce you to one of my favorite British things in the world, Bubble and Squeak. That is actually the name. I did not make this up. Google it, you will find that it is true. It exists. This is my favorite way to use up leftovers, especially after big meals like Christmas. You probably have these things hanging out. Mashed potatoes, some cooked vegetables, cabbage, bacon. I'm adding herbs because of course I am, and onions. And then oil and butter, which of course. So let's make ourselves some bubble and squeak, shall we? I have some suggested recipe amounts in the chat box if you want to cook along. But the other thing that you really need is a cast iron frying pan. I love this Lodge pan, but it's going to make it amazing. You're going to love it. So I'm going to heat up my oil in my pan, enough oil to cover the bottom. And for this version, I'm actually not going to use cooked cabbage. I'm going to cook the cabbage with you guys. And we're going to start, as all of my cooking students know, we're going to start by caramelizing onions because that's how all good recipes start. So check this out. I've got my pan on nice high heat. I have enough oil to cover the bottom of the pan. I'm going to put a couple little onions in the middle of the pan, and when they sizzle, that means they're ready to go. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to caramelize the onions in the pan. Then I'm going to add the cabbage, and I'm going to char the cabbage. And then I'm going to add my bacon and herbs, my cooked vegetables, and I'm going to mash potatoes on top of all of that, and I'm going to crisp it up on both sides and flip it over. So it's basically like a giant potato leftover sandwich. That is, pancake rather. It's so good. You just need to experience this. Also, did I mention that it's called Bubble and Squeak? Like, that's the proper name of this dish. It's so much fun. I first experienced it when I lived in England, and I didn't have the pleasure of being there on actual Boxing Day, but it's a classic way to cook leftovers any time of year. So here we go. My oil is hot. I can tell because my onions are sizzling. So I'm gonna add the rest of my onions now. Make sure that you always preheat your pan and you have enough oil to cover the bottom of the pan. This is really important. And because I'm gonna cook this on high heat, I'm using a high heat oil, not olive oil. Olive oil is not a high heat oil. If you use a high heat oil, it will say this is safe to 500 degrees. This is designed for high heat. You know because it won't smoke. If ever you're heating up oil and it starts to smoke, it's not a high heat oil. So fun fact, little trivia of the day. So I'm gonna add, when these babies are sizzling, I'm gonna add the rest of my onions. I'll show you guys how to caramelize onions. If you don't know how to properly caramelize onions, consider this a gift from 2020. So I'm going to toss them around so that everything is coated in oil. Okay, and then I'm going to spread them out and let them do their thing. They're going to get nice and caramelized. The stages of onion caramelization is going to go like this. First, they're going to become translucent like jellyfish. They're going to turn from opaque white to kind of see-through. Then they're going to start to turn light golden yellow, and then like a medium caramel golden. So while those are caramelizing, we'll talk about our other ingredients. So Bubble and Squeak is a traditional leftover dish. So it's made with leftovers like mashed potatoes and cooked vegetables and cabbage, which we're just assuming you gotta have a cabbage on hand at most times. I went ahead and just shredded and finely chopped some cabbage. I used turkey bacon because that was our breakfast from yesterday. I cut it into small little strips. I am adding some herbs. So British friends, please don't begrudge me my aromatics. I have some little leftover herbs from yesterday, some pieces of sage, some thyme, and then can I introduce you to my friend, the green onion that keeps on giving? I bought some green onions, and then I cut off all the green parts, I use them in a recipe, and I put the bulbs in a cup of water and put it in a sunny windowsill, and this is my 4th time regrowing those onions, and you just snip it and then put fresh water every couple of days, and it'll just keep growing. And my mom did not believe me, and until she saw it. So there you go. So let's give these little babies a stir, see how they're doing. They are starting to get translucent, which is lovely. And since we have that high heat oil, we can actually do this on high heat, which is lovely. And there's enough oil to keep them moving in the pan so they're not gonna stick, which is awesome. You can do this in any pan, but I'll tell you what, you guys, caramelized onions work best in a cast iron pan or in a stainless steel pan. A non-stick pan is not going to give you a good char on the bottom. So if you're going to make an investment, these things are like 20 bucks. I bought it for a camping trip years ago, and I use it almost every day. It's like my favorite pan. So there's that. So I want these to get a nice little caramelization going on. Oh yeah, they are already a light caramel. It's pretty fun. You know, the other way that you know you're caramelizing your onions is you can smell it. To me, the smell of caramelized onions is just like the smell of breakfast or lunch or dinner. Bubble and Squeak, perfectly acceptable for all of these things. I've had it as part of a full English breakfast alongside cooked mushrooms and baked beans and charred potatoes and fried toast. Like not toast, but like fried, like bread fried in oil. This is breakfast in the UK. It's delightful. I've also had Bubble and Squeak for dinner, and I think it would be a delightful brunch. So basically, if you guys are anything like us on holidays and like after holidays, we kind of just stagger through the day in our jammies or our sweats. Like, what meal even is this? This is the perfect meal because it's very vegetable forward. And it uses up leftovers, and you can have it for like whatever hour you'd all decide that you're hungry. And you can make a big old pan of it, and it feeds a crowd. So see how my onions have gotten some like beautiful golden color? I love it. I'm going to, at this point, add my bacon. Now it's already cooked. I'm gonna add my crumbled up bacon, and I'm going to add my cabbage. I was a little ambitious with my cabbage. I might not need all of this. Whew. But I love vegetables, so if I can maximize my vegetables. Now, I'm adding a little bit more because my cabbage is raw. I don't have cooked cabbage. I didn't make cabbage yesterday, but I have raw cabbage. So I'm going to toss this around, make sure it's all coated in oil. And I'm just gonna let my cabbage cook down and then start to like char a little bit. Yum. Now, this is really important, and you might be like, okay, I lost you at Bubble and Squeak. I somehow, leftovers, jammies, yes, vegetables, we should probably have some of those. Okay, but like, what the heck? It's called Bubble and Squeak. Well, yeah, Bubble, because that's what it does in the pan, and Squeak, because when you cook cabbage, it kind of goes between your teeth. It squeaks when it's properly cooked. So I'm just gonna let you guys enjoy this beautiful sizzle for a minute here, because once everything is stirred and coated properly in that oil, that nice hot oil, see how it's shiny and glossy? That's how we know it's coated in oil. I'm gonna like spread it out in the pan and just let it get a nice crispy brown layer. Okay, so just behold that glory. Just watch that and enjoy. Listen to the sizzle. Isn't that the best? Just that amazing sizzle. Now I'm gonna check. Oh, see, our patience paid off. There's like a beautiful char on the bottom. That's exactly what we want. Yum. So my cabbage now is shiny and it's softened, but more importantly, it's starting to char and get a beautiful golden crust. Yum. This smells so good already, you guys. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm gonna give it a really good stir. I'm gonna do it one more time. Spread everything out. I want it to get a nice golden char on the bottom. Yum. Meanwhile, I'm gonna get some salt and pepper ready and my aromatics, which are my herbs. So I'm gonna sprinkle everything with a layer of kosher salt, bearing in mind that my potatoes have a little bit of salt already and my bacon is salty, so I don't add too much. But I definitely want that in there. And I'm gonna add some thyme, just the leaves, not the branches, as I had a little tiny sous chef once, my friend's little girl, and she was like, "Are you gonna put the branches in too?" And she meant this part of the herbs. Don't put the branches in, they're too crunchy. So just put the leaves in. Okay, and I'm gonna give this a stir. Oh yeah, that is that golden brown goodness I'm looking for. Hello. And the thyme is just, oh my gosh, so good. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of dishes in the UK and in other British territory countries that use leftovers mixed with like vegetables and cabbage. This is actually kind of a common thing. Obviously this is the English British version with a little bit of a California twist. So my British friends, if you're watching this, I love you guys and I'm deeply inspired by this dish that changed my life. And I took some liberties. I took some California liberties with my herbs and I hope that's okay. But I'm sure if it's not, I'll hear all about it. And then I heard that in Australia they add peas to this. And I don't know, like I feel like peas takes it to a place I'm not sure I want to go. So I'm going to leave the peas out this time. If you are from Australia, can you please tell me why? Please tell me why we should have peas in this. That feels not quite right to me. And in Scotland, there is a dish that's really similar to this. And it has cheese. And it has a very different name. And I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but I went ahead and typed it up in the chat box. Or in the description rather. Okay, see that golden goodness? That is what we're going for. Okay, so now, friends, at this point, I'm going to press everything down evenly. So I'm gonna make essentially a giant potato pancake. And I'm going to add some butter over the top of all of it. You're like, just in case this wasn't good enough. Oh, whoops, pepper. Pepper. Some pepper. I come from a family of like hardcore black pepper lovers. So we do lots of pepper. I'm going to chop up my butter into small pieces so that it melts evenly. I might not add all of it, there's a lot of butter, but butter is for flavor. Sorry, vegans. You could make this vegan and add a little bit more oil at this point. But what I want to do is give myself essentially a little bit more oil on the bottom of this pan. I'm going to turn it down slightly. Yum. Okay, that's pretty magical. And I'm gonna snip some of my green onions over the top of that. Now there's an Irish dish called colcannon that is green onions and mashed potatoes and cabbage, but it's not fried like this in a pan. So similar flavors, but like really different texture. So Irish friends, tell me what's up about that. I got friends in really cool places like that. Okay. So now I'm going to add a layer of mashed potatoes on top of this. And this is the fun part. It's not an exact science, people, it's leftovers. But we're gonna see if we can press this into a pancake that we can flip over. That's the dream. We'll see if we can live the dream. I don't know, guys. I really don't know is the answer. So, and enough potatoes, enough potatoes to just kind of smear on an even layer. So in my family, my tradition, we make potato pancakes with leftover mashed potatoes, and I think that comes from maybe my German ancestors. We add a cracked egg, salt and pepper, and sometimes a little bit of milk if they're like really thick mashed potatoes. And we fry them up in a pan for like breakfast the next morning. I love that, but does your family have a leftovers dish think breakfast made from leftovers is like, it's like one of my favorite things. It's efficient, it's like delicious, it's like familiar flavors, and also I like the shortcut of like, dude, I already have this, it's already cooked, might as well use it, right? Okay, so then here's the trick. The trick is you need an even layer, and then you need to kind of press it flat. Okay. This is so much fun. And we know we have like a good char going on. And we know that these things are already cooked, so that's like the other thing going for us. So what I'm gonna wait for is like a nice crust on the bottom. And then I'm gonna flip this baby out onto either a serving platter, or if you're feeling gutsy, a sheet pan. I don't know, guys. I don't know if we're gonna make it, but either way, it's gonna taste delicious, even if it doesn't come out in a perfect pancake. Bubble and squeeze it shall. So bubble is for the kind of the bubbling it does in the pan. It's like it's hot and bubbly, and kind of when you cook it, the vegetables kind of make these little, you know, bubbles, for lack of a better word. And squeak is the cabbage. So really, to have bubble and squeak, cabbage, to me, cabbage feels essential. I don't think you can do this without cabbage. And hopefully we have enough butter in there. I'm gonna give this baby a turn out and see what happens. Don't want to burn it, but I do want it to get nice and dark and crispy. So excited about this. I know my family pretty well, so I'm gonna add another layer of pepper, maybe a little sprinkle more salt to the top of this. Do you have a leftover dish in your family? Maybe did you guys invent one, or is there one that's like culturally really specific? Oh, some of my favorite things ever are leftovers based, like chilaquiles in Mexico. That's one of my very favorite dishes, and it was born out of leftovers. Using what you have, tortillas and salsa and eggs. The thing I like also about this dish, it doesn't have eggs. It's like a breakfast dish with no eggs, and you could leave the bacon and the butter out, and this could be a vegan friendly dish as well. Most breakfast dishes have eggs, so this one does not. Okay, so if you're like, is it done? You can kind of cheat and peek at the bottom. Almost, almost. I'm just gonna kind of press this down, because really the pressing down is what's gonna get it to kind of sear. So you hear that sizzle? That's what we're going for. Get yourself a nice sizzle, and you're kind of compacting it as well. Otherwise, it's gonna be kind of floppy. And guess what? If it falls and it breaks into a million pieces, it's still gonna be delicious. What is your favorite breakfast leftover dish? And I wanna hear from you guys, if you're familiar with any of the ones that we've mentioned. Okay, so I'm just kind of compacting it. Oh man, mashed potatoes, bless you. Okay, guys, the moment of truth has arrived. So let's see what happens when we flip it over. Wish me luck. Loosen your edges, oops. Loosen your edges to give yourself the best shot at survival here. And like I said, I am quite happy if this flops out everywhere. I will still love it. I'm gonna take a little bit of a conservative, oh, that's not gonna fit. That's all right, conservative approach abandoned. We're gonna go for the flip. Let's see what happens. Okay, 1, 2.5. I'm gonna get 2 of these because I see where this is going. Okay. 3. Oh, that is perfect. So there you have it, a beautiful golden brown, delicious, amazing giant bubble and squeak. And I just can't resist trying some of this, so I'm going for it. It looks amazing. You can serve this with a fried egg on top if you want, or you can just cut yourself a wedge and eat it straight up, which is what I will do. Well, a wedge-ish, so to speak. But this is really great served right away. It's also super good, like heated up. So there you have it. I'm gonna snip some more green onions over the top because I can. Grow yourself some green onions, y'all. Learn how to caramelize onions and learn how to grow green onions. And those are some life skills. So let's see what this tastes like. And more importantly, let's see if it bubbles and squeaks. And happy Boxing Day to you. It totally does squeak in your teeth. So good. So good. Oh my goodness. And Boxing Day originated in turn of the century Victorian era England, when people had servants and the servants had to work on holidays. So the day after a big holiday like Christmas, it was called Boxing Day because they would make boxes of food and gifts and take it to their servants and let them have the day off. So if you cooked yesterday and you were doing things for your family, then maybe it's Boxing Day for you. And regardless, I hope you guys make some bubble and squeak, just because it's really fun to say and it's fun to eat. And maybe it's a way to get your kids to eat vegetables if you tell them to listen for the squeak. It's pretty fun. So happy Boxing Day, friends, and I will see you guys next time.